Hey everyone, and welcome back to Love Selfishly, where we finally put ourselves first and heal from our traumas and never settle for less. I am your host, Sasha. Today's episode, I want to talk about boundaries. How difficult to set boundaries with a disorganized, anxious attachment style, and following through with that boundaries and overcoming the fear of being abandoned or worried that you'll be abandoned once establishing those boundaries. If you guys don't know attachment style, it's basically how can I explain it? So attachment style is basically a style that begins as a child, as an infant, of how our parents interact with us and the relationship and interacting with them as we grow up. And based that type of relationship with our parents or caregiver and how we were taken care of, that will be our type of attachment style, if that makes sense. So there's 4 different ones. There's the most secure attachment style is secure attachment. Your parents met you with every needs, physically, emotionally, mentally, more aware of your surroundings and confidence with yourself, and able to communicate well with others and set a healthy boundary. And then we have 3 different attachment style that falls in the category of insecure. So we have the anxious attachment style, and this is if a child or if the parent is unpredictable or neglecting in some way as a child, where you've become clingy and needy. I hate those words, but that's how it is. Constant reassurance, constant validation, constant of validation to see if you're doing something right. Basically looking for permission or double checking, so lack of self-confidence. Yeah, there we go. A lack of self-confidence within yourself. And so that's where I fall into. And there's avoidant attachment style. This is where a child needs, their emotional needs, maybe physical needs, were rejected by their parents. And so as a child, you probably stop expecting things or a response from your parent. You learn to shut down, not to express emotions, not having a hard time being vulnerable, and distance yourself when things get too or if things are getting too attached to you, too personal, too emotional for you to handle. And so you're distancing yourself, your self-independence, you don't need help, and as long that you keep that distance, you don't feel rejected from your emotions. And then there's the disorganized attachment style. This one is, I actually fall underneath this one. This one is basically a mixture of two attachment styles, so anxious and avoidant attachment styles. So like it's basically conflicting with each other, and where it's hard to maintain a healthy relationship. This is where I have a hard time opening up, and where you're like distancing yourself, but at the same time you don't want this person to leave. You need that reassurance. You don't want to be abandoned. This organ attachment style is the style that I have. And like what caused it again, like it starts from childbirth, how our parents meets our need as an infant, and how we pick up that interaction that interaction that we have with our caregiver. And so why I want to talk about the difficulties of setting a boundary as a disorganized, fear-avoidant attachment style. Looking back, I would try to reflect and look back at a time when I would set a boundary. And not just from like outside my household, but like within my household. And I would think really, really hard. And I can't recall any of it. I don't think my parents demonstrate boundaries with each other. It was more of like a lack of communication, maybe a lack of trust. Yeah, that was never taught to me or within my family. It was never shown in my family, and so I grew up not setting boundaries for a long time, followed into my adult life, and it impacted me a lot. It was really hard to navigate in my life without setting a boundary. And so what happened as kids growing up in a household that look at boundaries as disrespectful and rude and ungrateful, we shut down. We learn to stay quiet. We learn that whatever we say goes against what they think and what they want for us. And so setting a boundary and speaking what's on your mind, how you feel, puts in a fear of confrontation and fear of being abandoned. And that was always my biggest fear. I was scared to set a boundary when I feel uncomfortable of something that was said or a behavior that was unkind, or where it just, crossed my boundary, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to respond, how to react. I would just keep it in and hold it in and let it bottle up in me until I explode. Explode as in like rage. That's how I would communicate in relationships, because that's how I would see my parents growing up. That's how they would communicate. I didn't realize how important setting a boundary is in a self-love journey. And the challenge for me was not just setting a boundary, but following through. I can recall that being in a relationship, or a romantic relationship, I would express how I would feel and let them know, like, hey, I don't like this. And also that just also me telling you, like, this is a boundary that cannot be crossed. I would get, oh, you're nagging. I would get, why are you acting like a bitch? I would get, you're overreacting. And I would believe it. Because, again, I didn't know how to regulate my emotions and understand why I feel how I feel clearly. But I just knew, like, it hurt and I didn't like it, so I'm just going to say it. Sometimes they would be apologetic and said, okay, I won't do it again. But they did it again. And this time I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be a bitch about it. I didn't want to seem I'm overreacting. Or I would just give them a chance. You know what? Like, we just talk about it. I'm going to give him this one grace. That one grace became 2, 3, 4, 10. Never follow through. Just let it go. I let it slide not because I didn't want to hear the words of being overreacting and nagging, but I didn't want to push them away from me. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be abandoned. So I would shut down and distance myself. Avoid it. It will be well known. They will ask what's wrong with me, but I'm too scared to say it. So I would say things what I don't really want to say. I just want to say things what they want to hear, basically. Or I would just say, like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired. Yeah, that was really hard for me. And for me, like, as an individual, like, who I am, I always thrive for peace and having understanding and avoid confrontations. And hopefully if they see my demeanor, how, like, patient, how understanding I am, that could translate back to them and would want to work with me, not against me. Little did I know, it was being taken as a disadvantage. I was being taken advantage of because of that demeanor. And not just like in romantic relationships. Sometimes, like, But friendships, I will always give. I'm always there to help my friends, and that's just who I am. But sometimes I do feel overwhelmed. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, I would stop what I'm doing, what I need to do for myself, and be there for them when they need help. Low key, deep inside, I felt resentment. I felt resentment because they weren't considerate of my time. I'm laughing a little bit because, in my mind, I would just expect them just to know, okay, she's doing a lot for us. Let's give her a break. I'm expecting that from them, even though I'm not voicing it to them, that I'm not communicating that to them. I'm just hey, do you guys see that, I'm worn out, I'm burnt out? Don't you see, I have other things to do? But no, I just keep it in and be there for them, and because I would be selfish for saying no. Yeah. It took me a really long time to understand that I did not have boundaries, and I was too afraid to follow through with them. The end of the year 2022 to the beginning of the year 2023, my boundaries were tested and crossed beyond the crossing point, the crossing line. I had to, it forced me to stop putting other people's needs before mine. It forced me to show up for myself. And that was the hardest reality wake-up call ever in my life, because it destroyed me. It broke me. Not I'm already going through the healing journey of my abusive relationship and marriage and childhood trauma. But this, taking the one thing that I love, the one thing that I carried for in my womb, being taken away from me based on false accusations. They cross a line with me, and that forces me to wake up. It doesn't matter how nice and how understanding, how patient I am. If I don't stand up for myself, if I don't set a boundary, they're going to continue to walk all over me. They're going to continue to think that, yeah, I'm weak and I'm easy to manipulate and have full access to. That was it for me. Another step of the self-love journey and healing is having that kind of wake-up call. And so since then, talking to my therapist, and then getting to a new therapist, I realized that I want to have a healthy relationship with myself. And I need to follow through with my boundaries. And I have to understand that I might get backlash for standing my ground. I would have people that would say that I'm mean, or that I'm being disrespectful because I'm voicing my feelings, my emotions, and I am setting a boundary for myself and for them. Sometimes it gets to me, I'm not gonna lie, because I did not want to be viewed as being mean, complicated, but it has to be done. There's no way around it. I couldn't keep relying on someone to defend for me and set the boundaries for me. I didn't have that. I need to show up for myself. And yeah, I've been called mean. I've been called mean a lot of times. Disrespectful. Maybe my tone of voice could be a little bit different, but I was assertive. Yes. Just because you don't like what you're hearing doesn't mean I'm being disrespectful. Just because I'm holding this person accountable doesn't mean I'm being mean. It's called boundary. I wish I would have known this a whole lot sooner, honestly. But I didn't. So the universe had to put me through this to wake my ass up. Girl, you have no boundaries. You lack them. And the hardest thing for me is, yes, following through with that boundary. That fear inside me is still there sometimes. I can feel it. It sometimes gets to me. I would have to take a moment to think about it, to understand it, just to be sure I'm not overreacting. See, that wording, that response that I would get, just to make sure I'm not overreacting. But then I have to train my brain. I'm not overreacting. This is how I feel. And my feelings are valid. And because this is how I feel and it's making me feel some type of way, it means that a boundary was probably crossed. And I need to communicate that with that person, so it doesn't happen again. And so that way we can continue to have a strong relationship. I had to train my brain that. To be no, that's the old thinking. This is the new thinking. This is the healthy way of thinking. This is how I'm gonna grow as a person, as an individual. This is how I would know who I am, what I want and what I don't want, and what I dislike. This is how I would know that a standard that I put for myself and for others. And I'm not going to back down from it. No matter what anyone say, I'm not going to back down, because like, it's my life, my well-being, my health that I need to take care of. I'm not too concerned about your well-being, your concern. And what I mean by that, like, I will respect your boundaries and stuff like that, but don't expect me to drop everything else to take care of me first so I can take care of you. Setting a boundary protects us, our peace of mind. Setting a boundaries make us to reflect and understand better about ourselves. Setting a boundary opens other opportunities and better way to understand our emotions and regulate them correctly. Setting boundaries is what's going to make us happy and thrive in our self-love journey and our healing journey. It is time for you to put yourself first, to put your needs and your wants first. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about your parents, your friends, co-workers, relatives. Just find a time to sit down and list what you don't like. That's how I started. I started the things that I don't like, or listings that just drains you emotionally from, or preventing you to take care of yourself. Write down the things that you need, what you want, and what makes you happy. And once you have those lists down, you have a better sense of who you are and what you want in your life and what makes you happy. And sooner or later, you're going to care less what other people will think and say, because they're not living your life. They're not. You're not there to make them happy. You're here to make yourself happy. We're here to take care of ourselves and to grow. And that's all I got for tonight about boundaries. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I feel like it's being tested. And I realize how important it is to have those boundaries, to keep you sane, to keep you in line, to keep you reminded of who you are. And no one should ever take that away from you. Okay, you are worthy to be respected. Doesn't matter the age, the year of experience, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, we are humans. We have feelings, and we deserve to be respected, no matter what. All right, you guys, I will see you on the next episode of Love Selfishly. Bye. Now I'm soaring, touching the sky. I am stronger than I've ever been, believing myself from deep